After over 2 years on the phone, it feels amazing to finally be alone with Mary. I'm not gonna lie, I always imagined it was gonna be freaky, very steamy. I'm definitely more than ready for our first night.
So you will just go to sleep.
I should be allowed to at least be facing her and holding her and cuddling with her, but I can't even do that.
Awesome! On this new season of The Other Way, it didn't take long for toxic couple Brandan and Mary to catch our interest. Even in just the first 2 episodes, their constant video calling was not only over the top, but it was also connected to an intense jealousy that was uncomfortable to watch. These two had to be on the phone 24/7 together, and this was because of a constant worry of one of them cheating.
I can't just go out and talk to any girl working.
It made for some awkward moments at family get-togethers and even a dental visit for Brandan.
Is it okay if I put the phone up somewhere where my significant other can see me?
Of course.
Brandan couldn't be around any woman without Mary freaking out. This started to feel like one of the most toxic relationships we had ever seen. And that is saying something, because we have seen our share of horrible relationships on this show. Brandan himself even comments on how he knows their relationship is not healthy.
Parts in my relationship with Mary have become tumultuous and toxic.
But when we met Mary in the Philippines and got her perspective, I got a bit confused by what was really going on with the constant video chatting. Mary, who gets angry with Brandan for sharing the same air with another woman, had no problem sneaking away from the 24/7 video chatting. It was her idea to stay on the phone all of the time, but she unplugs her router and blames power outages for her absences. And she hangs out with her guy friends when she's away. So was it just her that was the jealous one? Because we were getting some mixed signals on the true answer. As much as Mary was jealous, she claimed that she quit college to spend more time talking to Brandan. It made it seem like he was just as jealous.
If I didn't, I will lose Brandan.
But we hadn't heard any demands from Brandan firsthand. He seemed to just do whatever Mary told him. But there were still a lot of unanswered questions, including how these two were going to survive when Brandan moved to the Philippines with no job and no savings. But before we got any answers, Brandan packed his bags and moved across the world. This trip was not a smooth one though. To Mary's horror, Brandan was seated next to a woman on the plane and it started a massive fight. It seemed like Mary was actively trying to sabotage Brandan from moving to the Philippines.
I was sitting next to a girl and Mary was overthinking, so I got switched to an empty seat.
He was literally on the plane and she flipped out and said she was done with him. And when we see her on episode 3, she is still really mad about this.
I told Brandan that he shouldn't come here, but he got his hotel for layover in Manila.
This was all completely insane, and I hope his hotel stay was pre-planned. I thought for a second that it was just because of their fight. I mean, he even moved seats on the plane for her.
If there's no other available seats, you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Well, don't talk to girl.
She does end up acknowledging that she overreacted, but this has to be the most immature and stupid fight so far. He still left for the last leg of his trip the next day.
Behave.
But doesn't this seem like a high school or middle school relationship? Like, geez, these two are 23 years old. And remember, Brandan supposedly sent Mary like $60,000 to build the house she's living in. That was all of his savings. Could you imagine you send $60,000 over to your partner? Which is already pretty dumb in my opinion. There were no guarantees with him sending that money. But let's say that your partner uses that money to build a house like Mary did. So you pack your bags and get on a plane to go move into that house that you paid for. You take your seat on the plane, buckle your seatbelt, and then your partner freaks out about who you're sitting by and tells you not to come. Because you know, all airlines know that Brandan can't sit next to any girls. That was absolutely ridiculous and made no sense. Does he just ignore the flight attendants too? That argument did seem to get dropped pretty quickly though. I still don't know if it was real or not. I really hope it wasn't. I mean, Brandan ended up continuing his trip like it didn't happen. And while he took the last plane, hopefully not sitting anywhere near another girl, we got to see how Mary's grandparents feel about this relationship.
Kita kabatian ko mongga. Wala na iya. Wala na iya naman yung normal. Normal lang na.
They seem worried, just like everyone else watching. And since they all live together, I'm guessing they hear a lot of arguing. But their main concern is that Brandan shows them respect. And he is supposed to ask them for permission before he does things like hug and kiss Mary.
Di na magulid.
Hindi na magulit.
And her brother even tags along to pick up Brandon and make sure Mary stays safe. But he also seems to be there to make sure that Mary follows the rules.
Grandpa said na hugging is not allowed. If you do that, you broke the tradition of our ancestors.
Even though Brandon and Mary fight like teenagers, they are adults, so I was confused by why they needed permission for anything.
If you want to hug each other, go on and
Are you sure?
it's up to you.
You guys have permission to hug. Great. I was guessing that Brandon expected more than that since he got off the plane and brushed his teeth immediately. Brandon finally landed, and Brandon and Mary are finally about to meet after 2 years of talking online. But first, of course, they have to video call each other on his walk out. Good lord. All with her brother watching to make sure all they do is respectfully hug.
You're so handsome.
Her brother put that phone down quick. Is he hiding it behind his back? Mary says that she doesn't care about her grandparents' rules. I guess it would have made their first meeting pretty awkward if she just didn't touch him at all.
It feels amazing that I have my first kiss with Brandan. It's kind of awkward.
Things will probably already be awkward though, since they are now transitioning from 24/7 phone calls to in-person interaction.
Should we end the call? Because we're still on the phone.
Okay, yeah, we should.
And even though they are finally together in the same country, they have her family around watching their every move. But she could have at least warned him of these rules, because he acts like he truly has no idea.
My brother.
Mary's brother is the one who finally tells Brandon the whole needing permission rule.
And I just wish that Mary would have told me beforehand so I was more prepared to act right.
It makes you wonder what else Mary didn't tell Brandon. This also made me wonder if she didn't tell Brandon her family was going to live with them initially. I'm guessing he didn't build that house with all of his money, expecting to have rules and no privacy. And when Brandon gets to the house, as expected, things are awkward with Mary's grandparents.
He's got this resting bee face.
The first thing they ask is what they did when they first saw each other in person. I mean, you could ask her brother.
We talked with Brother Mar, and then we drove here.
Grown adults having to lie about kissing is so weird to me. I will say though that after only seeing them fight over dumb things over the phone, they don't seem as ridiculous in person right now. I know that that can change quickly, but it makes me wonder if a lot of this was just made up for the cameras. I mean, if you think about it, from what we understand, neither of them work. So if they applied to be on the show, they might as well just play up everything to get on it. They have to pay the bills somehow. If they plan to stay on the show long term, that could be how they make some money. And I'm sure that they will use the show to get more attention on social media. I mean, Mary is doing a dumb TikTok dance in her intro, but at the same time, I might be giving them too much credit too early. We don't know yet what these two are like together in person. Brandon at least doesn't seem very bothered by their living situation.
There's a lot of spider web, by the way.
Wow. Yeah.
Which I think is a good sign.
I've lived in a shed, like in my grandpa's backyard. I've lived in my car with no running water.
His reaction to where they will be living is so much better than Miss Clairvoyance. Could you imagine her seeing these bugs? Like, holy crap, what the f is that thing holding? A baby frog? Kimberly would have been back on the plane in 2 seconds.
Danielle and her magic coconut are here to manifest you subscribing to the Kiblz channel.
Perfecto.
I'm sorry you had to watch that. She's a moron. But if you have not subscribed, please do so.
So what do you call this?
Bihon.
Bihon.
While sampling some food that looks really good, we find out why Mary's grandparents are living with them.
There was a typhoon that destroyed their home, and I totally understand that.
As much as that makes sense, he doesn't say if this is a permanent thing or not. Is there a timeline for them to leave, or will they just stay forever? I can't imagine that they're in a rush to move out, but I'm also wondering when or if Mary even told Brandon this until he got there. Like I said earlier, he put all of his money into this, and he keeps talking about him and Mary's first night together.
We talked a lot about what we want it to be like a wet dream almost.
Now he has to ask the grandparents if he can even share a room with Mary.
Is it okay if I share a room with your granddaughter, Mary?
Pwede.
I thought they were just going to say no, but they just needed him to ask, I guess?
O hindi lang ka man ay magulid kay kinanglan niya ikaw ya marespeto kagidaan na sa amon nga duha ni.
This whole not sleeping together before marriage thing is kind of confusing me. If this is cultural, fine. But didn't Mary just say that she didn't care about her grandparents' rules? And aren't they technically guests in the house that Brandan and Mary built? Why do they make the rules? I'm genuinely asking. I'm seeing this more as Mary doing what she wants and then blaming things on her grandparents. If she doesn't want to sleep with Brandan, that's her decision. But it seems like she's avoiding just saying that. I can't tell if this is because she is nervous or because she thinks Brandan will get mad. Brandan has not seemed very bothered by much so far. But there is one thing now that he actually seems annoyed about. And no, it's not Mary's jealousy, not the constant video calling 24/7, it's not having to switch seats on a plane, or the giant bugs. He draws the line at having privacy.
Me and Mary do deserve the privacy that we've spent a long time waiting for.
He seems so mild. It will be interesting to see if he actually pushes to get her grandparents out of there. But for now, his main concern is still their first night together.
I'm still hoping that we're gonna have some sort of romantic, steamy intimacy or something going on tonight.
They do have permission to share a bed. Brandan and his underwear are more than ready for this, and he keeps repeating how they had their first night together planned on the phone. But they aren't on the phone anymore.
I'm not a virgin, but Mary is, and I totally respect that.
And Mary had just had her very first kiss this same day. Also, he said that they were almost daily having phone sex, so he has some expectation of some intimacy.
I always imagined it was gonna be freaky, very steamy.
But being in person is very different for them, especially Mary, which makes sense. This is literally all new to her. Also, they have the grandparents right next door, along with that big-ass spider and cameras all around him, and a squeaky gecko.
What is that?
But Mary is not ready, so the night is not as steamy as Brandan hoped. She also hasn't told him yet that he's probably going to be waiting a lot longer, because she wants to wait until marriage.
So you will just go to sleep, I go to sleep too.
There is definitely a pattern of her not telling Brandan certain things, and I can't tell why yet. I understand her not wanting to sleep with him right away, but I wonder what they talked about on the phone.
I'm disappointed, but I'm just trying to be respectful. I've waited over 2 years to be with her, and I can wait a little longer.
I was kind of annoyed with him here, but it sounds like he had some sort of expectation that they talked about before he got there. He also definitely did not expect to sleep facing the wall on opposite sides of the bed. I really don't think that this has anything to do with the grandparents. Mary is setting some boundaries so she feels comfortable.
I should be allowed to at least be facing her and holding her and cuddling with her, but I can't even do that.
But she came off so crazy before that I'm questioning everything she does.
He said he won't be sitting with girls or anyone, but girls sitting next to him, so I have the reason to get mad.
Like, what did she say before Brandan got there? Why wasn't she honest about wanting to wait until marriage? Was she just nervous? Was her crazy act fake? I'm trying to figure this out because I don't have enough information yet. In a previous video, I compared Brandan and Mary to Paul and Karini, and I was wondering if Mary was the Paul in this situation. The concern is if these two are really as toxic for each other as they came across before. Is Mary a nice person who just played up the jealousy, or is she manipulative like Paul? It is already all over the internet, so I'm just going to say this. We know that Mary and Brandan are married and that there are rumors that she's pregnant. We know that these two are still together, but Paul and Karini went in a similar direction, and things for them got very, very bad. As we watch these two on their journey, we will find out if they are really toxic for each other or if it was all an act. As of right now, I'm leaning towards it being played up and fake. But on the next episode, it looks like the obsessive behavior is back.
I want him to get chubby because when he's chubby, he's huggable, like teddy bears.
So where do you think this will go? When we see them out and about in the Philippines together, will their jealousy issues continue? How will Brandan take Mary's decision to wait till marriage? What will Brandan think of Mary's guy friends? Will Mary let Brandan around any women ever? Will one of them try to get a job? There are still a lot of questions to be answered, so we will have to wait and see how these next few episodes play out. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye!
you.